radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Well. How did we get here? How you doing? It is Monday, October 22nd, 2018. This is Fade to Black. 298 days into the new year. Just 67 days left, man. We've just about wrapped 2018. Pretty incredible. As always, we are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. That's right. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? Well, where do I start? Where do I start? Where do we go? That's right. In case you haven't heard, tonight our guest is Richard Dolan. That's right. And Richard is here to have another open and frank conversation about our community. All of it. So get ready, kids. That's right. I know you want me to say buckle up. Yeah, come on, it's Richard. It's Richard. We're just gonna sit and talk. Drink some coffee and talk. That's what we're going to do tonight. Richard Dolan is here tomorrow night. Wow, really? Laura Eisenhower is here tomorrow night. She's back with us. Always great when she's here. I miss Laura. So she's going to be with us. And I know that she is going to be presenting this weekend in Albuquerque at the Stargate Conference. So she is with us tomorrow night. Wednesday night, Nick Redfern is back, and he's going to talk about his new book that was just released and published. We have it here on abductions, and that will be Wednesday night. Thursday night is another Fader night. Open lines all night long. That's right. That's right. Open lines. Man, what a great Fader night we had this past Thursday. Talked about it all weekend. It was so much fun. So anyway, there we go. Okay. Let's get the show cracking. We got a lot to do tonight. And I know that there are a lot of you here. And the thing is this. This is what you want to do. Okay? You want to follow me on Twitter. That's the first thing. So get that off of the list. At JChurchRadio. Go and follow me. The Sandbox is hashtag F2B. If you are new to Twitter, then get your Twitter thing going, whatever it is that you want to say about this show tonight. Yeah, you can pop me in there at JChurchRadio. That's fine. Hashtag F2B is where the conversation takes off. Okay, that is the Sandbox. The Fadernauts, the loyal fans of this show over the years, have named it the Sandbox. I'd like to take credit for it. I can't. In fact, I don't even know who did. But somebody named it the Sandbox a long time ago, and that's where it's at. Hashtag F2B. If you have any questions or comments during the show tonight, please use hashtag F2BQ. Everything is up in front of me and live. We have 2 chat rooms. We have one in Spreaker. We have one over at KGRA The Planet. And I believe that tonight, for the first time, we might even have chat live on the stream. Let me see here. I'm going to fly over to the stream. I haven't even checked. And let's see if the chat room is going over there. No, it's not. Oh, huh. Okay. All right. I'll see what I can do about that during the break. I don't have time to do that right now. Okay. Man, it's just too much to think about all the time. Tonight, Richard Dolan is here. You can follow everything that I do on social media, which is onstellar.com, ONSTELLAR.com. Of course, Twitter, Facebook, hang out a little bit over there. YouTube, we post every day, all of the shows, and of course, we broadcast live there too as well. So you can subscribe to our official YouTube channel. Everything is over at jimmychurchradio.com. Okay, it's all really that simple. You can also email throughout the show, jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Before we get to all the action tonight, got some breaking news. This is craziness too. 5 artifacts thought to be part of the Dead Sea Scrolls are fake and will not be displayed anymore at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. They announced it today. That's right. I find it hilarious. Seriously, I do. And the real question here is, how much did they pay for them? Right? How much? 5, right? Isn't this hobby, what's the hobby store chain? What's it called? I think these are the owners of that hobby store chain. I can't remember what the name of it is, but they own this Bible in the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., and they've got a lot of questions about what they have acquired over the years with their money. So there's that. And, of course, was the purchase even legal? How do you purchase pieces of the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? Oh, man. And who else purchased fake Dead Sea Scrolls? Well, the bottom line is this. Is it Hobby Lobby? Thank you for that, Cassandra. Is it Hobby Lobby? All right. I don't want to be wrong there. But if anybody is interested, I just want to let you know, and especially those at Hobby Lobby, that I have an original Old Testament. I do. Signed by Moses, and it's for sale. That's right. And if you open it up right there on the front, it says, "To Jimmy, I'm a big fan. Signed Mo." And it's for sale. So just let me know. You can contact me, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com, and we'll negotiate a price for that. It's real, too. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. It is just $2 per month. Help support the show, and you get all the apps that you need. Just click over at the podcast banner at jimmychurchradio.com. We have over 900 archive shows right there, just $2 a month. You can also become a Fade or Not over in our membership section of jimmychurchradio.com. You can get commercial-free downloadable archives. You get a private email to me. You get the bunker cam. You get, if you want, you can get autographed shirts and hats and all that fun stuff. Do it now. Become a Fade or Not over in our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today. Christopher Lloyd is 80. Most don't remember. I do. He played Reverend Jim Ignatowski on the hit show Taxi. But, of course, he was Doc Brown in the Back to the Future series. 80 years old. Happy birthday to Christopher Lloyd. Jeff Goldblum today is 68. And, yeah, I know what you're saying. You know, Jurassic Park. Yeah, okay. Maybe Thor Ragnarok. You know, he's pretty good in that. But it's always going to be Independence Day for all of us around here at the office. But he was also pretty good in The Life Aquatic and the Grand Budapest Hotel. Happy birthday to Jeff Goldblum. On this day in history, OTD 1867. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. What happened? Oh, no. Oh, man. My to this day in history is gone. Yeah, and so's my Fader fact. So there you go. So I'm going to jump ahead. And my on this day in history was, man, I forgot it already. Oh, man. There you go. You got to love live radio. All right, I'm going to hit this coffee because we have to talk for a second. This shameless plug for River Moon Coffee. Oh, man. Fade to Black blend. You know, you go through life. Life has its ups and downs, and everybody has dreams, and you do your thing, and all you want to do is just move forward. And, you know, sometimes you have a little success, sometimes you don't. You know, maybe, you know, I remember when I was in a band and I played Gazaris for the first time. It's like, man, oh, man, have we arrived? We're playing Gazaris tonight. Is this where life, is this what it's about? Well, I can safely say no. No, let me tell you what life is about. When you drink your own coffee with your picture on the package, that's a pretty good feeling. So let me hit this again. Fade to Black blend by River Moon Coffee. I'll never end the shameless plugs for that. All right, so let me tell you how it is. Let's get comfortable for a second, folks. The UFO community, a UFO conference, talk shows like Fade to Black or Coast to Coast AM. These are the safe zones. That's right. A place where you can come and share anything and everything without anyone passing judgment. In fact, it's supposed to be the exact opposite. This is the place where you go where people may pass judgment. They may not. But your comments, your stories, your conversations are yours and yours alone. And you are able to go and express yourselves. I'll never forget my first MUFON meeting here in Los Angeles 10 years ago. And I stood in the middle of the room, and as I was standing there, there were like 4 or 5 conversations going around me at the same time. You know, these two over here are talking about being abducted, right? These two in front of me are talking about ETs in their living rooms, right? Over here to my right was a conversation, I'm exaggerating here, about the landing of a craft out in the desert that was witnessed by them and their friends. And I was standing there and I was like, holy crap, this is great. This is my people. I've never experienced that before. And everybody's just talking and everybody is listening. Now, remember, at that time, I had had my own little experiences that I had never shared with anyone, ever. You know, and here I've got an opportunity. I can actually talk to somebody and tell them what happened to me, and they're going to listen and maybe even ask me questions, and right? This freedom. Now, when I go to conferences today, I have all kinds of people that come up to me and talk. And yeah, you know, and they're sharing their own experiences and things, and they've got something that they have to tell me. And some of it can get way out there. I'll admit that. But I always listen. I go back and think about what happened to me that first time at MUFON, you know, and that's what this community is about, right? Hang out at a conference after hours in the bar or at different areas where people kind of hang out, a park bench, you know, somewhere outside, a couple of people smoking. Go up and listen to them. You will hear one story after another. And it's fun, and it's cool, and it's open. These are people expressing, you know, and that's what this community is about. And this show, Fade to Black, is no different. It's the barbershop. And when you have done as many shows as I have, or taken as many phone calls as I have, or done as many conferences I have, and meet and greets, you learn one beautiful thing about this community, and it's that we listen, we share, we talk. It's what we do. And this community of ours is all we've got. We own it. And you need to think about that. This community is ours. Just like any other community or family. We are going to have arguments. We're going to have disagreements. We're going to have agreements. We're going to have parties. We're going to have the sad times. We're going to have the good times. But that's what a family does. And the family sticks together through the thick and thin, through all of it. Because in the end, all we have got is ourselves. And it's because of this honor, this tradition of openness here with this community. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you shouldn't listen to this person or that. Don't. That is poison. Walk away. Run. Think about that. Every single day after a broadcast of Fade to Black or Coast to Coast, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the guest is or what the subject is. I'll get an email the next day from at least one person, one listener, and it's going to be an email from someone saying that I should never have that guest on again or they're never going to listen to this show. Right? It's every single day. It doesn't matter who the guest is. Tonight it's Richard Dolan. I'll get an email tomorrow. If you ever have Richard on the show again, I'll never listen. Right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the guest is. Let's suppose for a second. Let's suppose that I actually did it. Think about this. For real. That we would actually blacklist a guest because of an email, a post. What does that say about the integrity of this show or myself? Think about that. This show happens the way it does because I think that I'm going to have an interesting conversation. That's it. Just like hanging out at a MUFON symposium. Some UFO gathering, right? That's it. It's just an interesting conversation. Whether it's about time travel, ancient history, pop culture, Van Halen, or orbiting Jupiter on an ET starship with a reptilian overlord. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't. So what would that say about my integrity? Think about that, where you, the listener, are assuming a few things about Fade to Black. And one of them is, it's the barbershop. Everybody can come in here and talk. I take unscreened phone calls. Anybody can call in. I will listen to everybody. Right? And if the conversation is interesting, great. If it's not, it's not. It's just like any other conversation that you're going to have. But you're assuming that everybody is welcome. That suddenly I'm not bringing on a guest because somebody told me not to? What? It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't. This show happens because I think I'm going to have that interesting conversation, which brings me to this. Whenever someone out there tries to say that we shouldn't listen, that I shouldn't listen, I back off. I back off. Seriously, I backpedal. It's very, very simple. Nobody knows the answer to the ET or UFO question. It's that simple. Nobody does. Nobody. Critics of this show don't know the answers to the ET or UFO question. They don't. They don't. They can't tell me that they do because I know they don't. Skeptics don't know. Debunkers don't know. Abductees don't know. Experiencers don't know. Authors, researchers don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody. That's it. Nobody. There's no gray area or room for debate. There's none. There's none. That's it. That's the end of the story. So if anybody tells you that they know the truth, don't listen to this person. Listen to this. Run because they don't know. Honestly, that's the exact opposite of the person that you need to be listening to. And that's where you censor. That's it. So you have to ask yourself this. Why would anyone try to blow up this community? Why would anybody try to divide us? Why? Why would anybody try to cause drama? Anybody out there? Anybody? Think about that. That's when you run. This is our community, man. We'll deal with things on our own. We don't need your help. You know, and especially those that aren't even part of the community. They're trying to insert themselves into the drama. Oh, my God. It's funny. Now, honestly, I'll admit that over the last few days, I've gotten the emails, I've gotten texts, and I've gotten the posts saying, Jimmy, have you seen this? Have you seen that? They're talking about you, man. And honestly, listen to me right now. I haven't. I haven't listened to anything. I don't click. I don't read. I don't watch the drama. I don't listen to it. I just don't do it. Now, I hope I haven't bummed anybody out by saying this, but I really have no idea what is said, nor do I care. I really don't. And I know that there are people out there, they're probably listening right now, that are hoping that but I haven't. I honestly haven't. So I'm able to sit back and go, no, don't know. Don't know what was said. Didn't watch it. Don't care. I don't. Will it affect Fade to Black? No. Do I change my life today? Oh my God, they said no. It doesn't. It doesn't change a thing. There is only one reason to mention me or Fade to Black negatively in a video or a post. Honestly, it's to elevate one's own ego. Whoever makes these statements needs to feel important. They need to feel wanted. They need to feel needed. They're needy. They've got an ego that needs to be fed. And they probably want me to react and say their name on the air. And that ain't going to happen because, well, I have no idea what was said or who said it. I don't care. And this is the thing. And here's the most important point. And it's no joke. I don't need to feed my ego by listening to someone else talk about me. Actually, that just sounds kind of gross. So I just don't do it. I don't. You need to think about everything that I just said. What Fade to Black is about, what I am about, it's all the community first. It's always been that way. Sure, I've had questionable guests over the years. Sure, I've had guest phone calls on this show where you have listened to the story, you've listened to the narrative, you listened to the caller talk about their experience, you've listened to me interview somebody that has shared whatever it is that they're going to share, and it may push the envelope of believability. And you are all sitting there waiting for what? You're waiting for that guest or that caller to screw up. You want to see how far they can take it. That's okay. That's part of the sport of it. There's the other part of it. When I have a caller that calls up, when I have a guest that shares an experience that is similar to my own or your own, and they've heard about it on the show and they've heard it discussed before, and now they feel comfortable enough to come in here and share with us. And that's why this show is so cool. That's why it is just amazing. And that's why people will come up to me at a conference, because they know that I will listen. Because it goes right back to those original MUFON meetings where I went and I just had that freedom. That freedom. And I never want to let that go. Discernment is up to you, the audience. Just like back in the day when I used to listen to Coast late at night. I would listen to other alternative things. I would read the books. I I enjoyed it. I kept an open mind. Tonight, my guest is Richard Dolan. And it seems that every time Richard is on the show, there's some crazy business about. Tonight is no exception. And it's a good thing, though, because Richard has a way of talking sense into everyone. We all sit up and listen when Richard enters the room. It's the respect. I have introduced Richard at countless conferences. I have sat with Richard privately and had the most amazing conversations, both in person and on the phone. We have a mutual respect for each other. And when I introduce Richard at a conference, I make sure that I mention one thing every time, which is something that this community can be proud of. Richard's 10 minutes at the press club in Washington, D.C., those 10 minutes that he spoke represented us. And we can go, and you can go and look at that video and know that this is the man that is representing this community. And he speaks from not only a historical perspective, but a very pragmatic view. And we need to always sit and listen to what Richard has to say. You may not agree, but that's not the point. You may agree, and that is not the point. The point is he has a way to get us all back to our senses. It's what he does, and he does it so well. One thing is for sure. I long for the day when Richard and I can just sit and talk about UFOs and disco music. So hopefully in the future, Richard will be on the show, and I promise you, all we'll talk about is UFOs. It's one of the best parts about Richard that these days it all gets ignored. So don't worry, it's going to happen soon, and that is a pinky promise. Tonight, our guest is Richard Dolan. Want to remind everybody that tomorrow night, Laura Eisenhower is back with us. Wednesday night, we have Nick Redfern here. We're going to talk about his new book on abductions. And then, of course, Thursday night is another Fader night right here on Fade to Black. It is open lines all night long. This is Fade to Black. It's going to be one of those nights. I'm looking forward to this. Our guest is Richard Dolan. I'll be back after this short break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can email me right now, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can also follow Richard Dolan at Rich Dolan on Twitter. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be back with our guest, Richard Dolan, after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Times are changing. The circus of politics, healthcare's low standards and high prices, and let's not forget food quality. What to do? Arm yourself with Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. In a world of chemical imbalance and poor air and water quality, it's time you make a move. Log on to getthetea.com and stock up on organic non-GMO supplements. Don't forget the tea. Cleansing your body never felt so good. And we have a brand new tea called Takedown Tea, which helps support healthy glucose. All natural body support so you can be at your best, naturally. All you have to do is log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. We're not a fad that comes and goes. We are the real deal. Join us and armor up. Getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Changing America's health one tea bag at a time.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find Fast Start Diet on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code TALK to get 10% off your first box. And as a special bonus, Fast Start will include their #1 rated Lipo-3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. This is Jimmy Church. And whatever your diet plans are, do what I did. Go to faststartdiet.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Richard Dolan at Rich Dolan. I don't know why it's not Richard. I just think he was speed typing. He just got to Rich. Maybe his family calls him Rich. Maybe that's some inside info. But you can follow him at Rich Dolan. Tomorrow night, Laura Eisenhower's here. Wednesday night, Nick Redfern. Thursday night is Fader Night, open lines. Tonight, it's Richard Dolan, one of the world's leading researchers and writers on the subject of UFOs, and believes that they constitute the greatest mystery of our time. Richard completed his graduate work at the University of Rochester, where he studied U.S. Cold War strategy, European history, and international diplomacy. Before that, he studied at Alfred University and Oxford University and had been a finalist for a Rhodes Scholarship. He's the author of UFOs in the National Security State. He co-authored with Bryce Abel, AD After Disclosure. And, of course, his latest book that I've been talking about for the last 4 years is UFOs and the 21st Century Mind. Of course, he hosts a weekly radio show, The Richard Dolan Show, right here on KGRA. He's a frequent guest with me over at Coast to Coast AM and is currently featured on several television series and documentaries, including Ancient Aliens, Hangar One, the UFO Files, and Close Encounters. And, of course, his Gaia TV series, False Flags. In addition to all of this research, he also has Richard Dolan Press, which he actively publishes innovative books by authors from all around the world. But tonight, we're going to discuss the latest news in our UFO community. We're going to talk about trademarks, publishing, and the media. Maybe get a little TTSA in, maybe some Gaia TV, maybe some recent UFO sightings, and, of course, his next book on false flags. Right now, it's Richard Bleepin Dolan on Fade to Black. Anything can happen and probably will. Welcome back, Richard. How are you, man?
Hello, Mr. Jimmy. I'm glad to be here with you.
And Richard, I'm not going to talk to you about false flags tonight, but let me ask you this. What was the last song you listened to today?
Oh, caught totally off guard.
Yeah, you weren't expecting that, were you?
Let's see. I don't think we discoed it up today. Tracy's sitting right here with me. So.
Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, Trace.
So, I think I had classical music, some kind of Bach thing. I'm going to guess it was Sweets. Very exciting stuff. Everyone wants to hear about Bach's English Sweets. Go listen and learn. We'll do Donna Summer next time.
Oh, somebody tweeted out, that Richard definitely listened to disco today, but he's gonna go the classical route and save himself. That was actually a tweet.
Really?
And you said that, yeah. So there you go. You saved yourself.
Very astute prediction.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Hey, Richard Bleepin Dolan, are you going to trademark that?
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to go through some trademark and some significant copyright measures myself to protect my own IP.
Okay.
I figure it's the only way to go.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I'm not going to trademark anything. I think.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do that. Honestly, the whole trademarking thing is bringing everyone right up to the edge of almost being like a patent troll. And we're on here. You and I chatted about this earlier today, talking about the what I just think of as the Corey Good trademark fiasco.
Right.
And I don't even pretend that I have the whole story on this. Tracy and I, we've been really trying to get to the bottom of it. I have been trying to figure this out to the best of my ability, and I know that there's information I probably lack, but it does look to me that we're dealing with, on some level, on one level, a kind of almost standard battle that you find in media and among corporations to protect. After a nasty breakup, which obviously happened with Corey and David Wilcock with Gaia, over the rights to presumably their shows.
Right.
I'm guessing they probably are looking at greener pastures somewhere, and they want to be able to, or he wants to be able to maintain certain titles. So I get that, and probably a lot of people get that. But the problem, of course, is first of all, you can't try to stop other people from talking about this subject. That's ridiculous. Secondly, to have the pretense that you have ownership over certain phrases like SSP, and really implied the phrase secret space program in his attorney's letter to Jason Rice not long ago, that certainly is implied. So there's here's the thing. I think a lot of us who've really followed the UFO field and have been involved in it for a long time have tried to just avoid and ignore a lot of what's been going on and these so-called whistleblowers and the 20 and back programs and the like, and just hoping that they would one day just go away. I was one such person. I just thought, this can't be real. This can't be happening. And yet every year it was a phenomenon that seemed to grow and leave so much more litter and trash in the on the streets of our UFO-oriented community.
Right.
And I think what pushed a lot of folks over, myself and a lot of my own colleagues, I've chatted with Joseph Farrell and Catherine Austin Fitz and a number of other people who are very involved in this. A lot of them are very well known. Lots of people out on YouTube talking about this. And I just think a lot of us are not really going to want to put up with this anymore. This is too far. You can't trademark certain phrases that have been in use for years and indeed decades, like secret space program.
Well, let me jump in, Richard.
That's a problem.
Yeah. Let me jump in really quick. You're a publisher, right? Do you trademark your stuff?
Nope.
And why? No, and why is that?
Why? Why should I need to?
Okay.
Like, seriously, why should I need to trademark anything that because I'm not creating fiction, right? It's like I'm not creating like a creative work of art. I'm working in the field of history, which is the field of truth.
Right.
And how is it that anyone could have a pretense to trademark truth? Like, if I were writing a book on the people in the state of New York, where I happen to live, could I trademark New York State?
Or the people of New York?
It would be absurd. It would be ridiculous. Right. And hopefully people would laugh at me if I tried to do that. The fact that Corey Goode has been trying to trademark Sphere Being Alliance or Blue Avians, that's what I would. J.K. Rowling would trademark Harry Potter because that's a work of fiction.
Right.
Like, you would trademark works of fiction. But, I mean, if you're going on the pretense that what you're talking about is real and like real people,
right.
Like if there are such blue, avian blue birds that are out there, then why would you show them the ultimate disrespect of trying to trademark them? Like, that wouldn't make sense if they were real. But if they were a work of fiction, well, it's entirely different. So there's just a lot of this going on, and to try to trademark things that are true and particularly meaningful to a wider community, that's pernicious and that's wrong. And I think good people are right to try to step in and say something about it.
Yeah, and I've stated very publicly here that I haven't trademarked anything. I don't know if I should. I don't know. But I really don't care about it, right? In that it's this is a community that should just be unrestricted. The problem that I have. First off, anybody has the right to go and trademark whatever they want. You, Richard, me, or anybody, if they feel the need to protect themselves. But if you do that, then you shouldn't be critical about anybody else that is making a trademark claim, because then it's a little bit hypocritical.
Well, actually, yeah. And when I first heard about this a couple of weeks ago, my initial inclination was to look at it exactly that way, that he's in a war with Gaia. Right. It's all about money. It's all about money. And then those are sordid stories frequently, but nonetheless, that's their business. And if you want to trademark something to protect yourself, okay, I can get that. But when you jump over the line and attempt, there was always, even then, like this subtext that people were wondering about as to, well, yeah, if you trademark something, does that mean you have exclusive rights over certain types of use of it, whether it's monetization or certain types of other uses? And that lurked in the background. And I understand that he has said, no, I'm not trying to do that. But then he goes and does it. Like, he goes and does it to Jason Rice and explicitly using his lawyer, using phrases like SSP and secret space program. And honestly, I have to say this, like, if you need a lawyer, I would not use his lawyer, because that is such a ham-fisted, obvious attempt, like a sledgehammer style of intimidation that would be used at Jason Rice. I just think, are you kidding me? Like, it's like, that can't be a credible legal threat. And indeed, if you read that letter carefully, there isn't really any kind of legal standing that they have. It's just all, like, you are strongly, what is it? You're strongly requested. We're firmly requested to cease and desist. It's like, well, what are you going to do? Use harsh language at me? They didn't really have anything, but the fact that they're trying to is a nasty little thing to do. And it really shows. Well, it shows. Many people are going to say it shows its true colors. I guess I would.
This is not. I'm not directly involved, but I somewhat am in that letter and how it was perceived. And for me, look, okay. If you want to trademark something, trademark it. You got T-shirts you want to make. You've got a comic book. You got a movie you're going to do. You got whatever, and you feel the need. That's fine. And not controlling people's conversations, and if people are free, and you want to say that, fine. But then this letter gets sent out and goes public. That letter reads to me that you are telling somebody that if they come on this show, they can't talk about things that you don't want them to talk about, and that is censorship. And I that letter rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, it should. I mean, that letter is one more symptom of a much more generalized sickness in our society, and it goes well beyond the UFO field. This is very widespread, and it is in attack in many ways on the range of what people can say in public. And I think what's happened over 20 years, we've been beaten down more and more by don't say this, don't do that, don't think that, or you're a bad person, can't say this. And we've gone into this point in our society where we just kind of like, we shrug our shoulders. I guess I can't say that. And so I think if this tactic had been tried 20 plus years ago, we would have laughed it out of existence, like it could never have been conceived. Right.
But the fact that it can be conceived today and attempted just a sign of a broader sickness that we have in our society. But no, this is a really bad thing. And aside from that, I mean, I don't really even. It's almost bothersome to talk about this because, in my view, the UFO subject is serious. And when and the secret space program itself is something that's very serious and meaningful. And I just have to say this, and in fact, I've mentioned this with you previously on prior shows that we have done together over the years, and I don't know for an absolute fact that this is the case with Corey Goode or other people who've claimed to be whistleblowers in a secret space program, but I will say that over the long history of the UFO phenomenon, there has been a great deal of infiltration of this subject, of this field, by the U.S. intelligence community. It's happened. There's been, I was looking into this just recently for some of the broadcasts that I've been doing, and back in the 1950s, you had contactees like George Van Tassel and George Adamski and Howard Menger and Truman Bethoram and George Hunt Williamson, all of whom appear to have had different types of connections to the U.S. intelligence community, whether FBI or maybe even in the case of Adamski, suspected CIA. And this isn't proven, but there are indications. And I bring this up because many researchers have concluded that at least some of those contactees, I met with people from Venus and I have this message for humanity and so on, were brought in order to discredit the genuine phenomenon itself. We do know that the U.S. intelligence community back in the 50s and 60s and all throughout was actively involved in infiltrating the UFO field. We know this through the Robertson panel. Mm-hmm. We know this beyond UFOs through things like Operation Mockingbird, where the CIA completely managed so much of U.S. media for decades, and they still do, frankly. So there's infiltration, and there were infiltration of UFO groups like APRO and NICAP and MUFON. There was the well-known disinformation campaign by Richard Doty against Paul Benowitz around 1980.
Right.
So this has happened. And what I'm saying is, if there is a genuine secret space program, which I firmly believe there is, and I have a lot of reasons why I'd be happy to explain this again. And if we were in charge of maintaining security on that very important program, it would be the greatest thing, wouldn't it, to have people going out into the public talking smack about things that are just so absolutely absurd that the entire subject loses all credibility and serious research stays away from it. So it is a tactic. And we know, in fact, that this is something that continues to this day. Edward Snowden made this very, very clear with his releases when he talked about GCHQ, that's Britain's NSA, basically, about how they have programs to control, infiltrate, manipulate online discourse and to compromise the integrity of online conversations and create things like fake victim posts where, there's alleged victims of a target that they want to destroy their reputation, like what appears to have happened to Julian Assange. So you have active types of disinformation going on today. You have a statement by Cass Sunstein. He was a leading lawyer and a judge, very prominent in the Obama administration. Back in 2008, he co-authored a paper talking about conspiracy theories. He talked about how do we deal with the government response to these, what we would now call fake news. And he just said, look, what we got to do is create cognitive infiltration of extremist groups. So I'll leave that to you to decide what that means, cognitive infiltration of groups that they consider to be a danger. That's as recently as 2008. So everything's in place for us to see the evidence that there's very strong reason that intelligence agencies would seek to undermine groups and organizations that they deem to be dangerous. And I don't know Corey Goode's deal here, okay? I've met him a couple times personally, and I'll just say, we were very civil with each other. I sat next to him at the MUFON panel in 2017, which lots of people have, you can see that on YouTube. And I have nothing against this man personally, and I think he would believe me, and it's true. But what I do feel a strong obligation for is to defend the integrity of my field. That is the field of UFOs that is legitimate, and that really can't be dragged through one after another of not only unproven claims, but unprovable claims. I mean, these are literally like impossible to verify. And they're the kinds of stories, and I'm going to let you get I'll take a breath here for you. These are the kinds of stories, like if these were from your next door neighbor, who said, yeah, I went to Mars. You'd be like, oh, really? You went to Mars? Yes, I went to Mars. You might be a little suspicious, and you might ask them, right? You'd say, well, how long were you there? Oh, 20 years. And, when? There's another kind of incredible thing. And then you'd say, well, people must have missed you. I mean, or do you have any documentation? No documentation. Well, did people miss you? No one missed me because at the end of my 20 years, I came right back to my house and no one knew I left the house at all. And you would think my next door neighbor's crazy. Like you would think that. Anyone would think that. But there's a very, very odd phenomenon, I believe, that happens in our society when you get such a person, you put them in front of 500 or 1,000 people in hushed tones where they're practically revered, and a different mindset happens. And it's a kind of hypnotism. And it's a very dangerous thing where in our society, no one, or not, at least many people, are not asking for evidence. Some people, thankfully, are asking and demanding evidence, but lots of people aren't. So, this is now the time. I think it just was a very miscalculated move, a ham-fisted move to try to prevent someone else from talking about this by claiming ownership over these phrases that have, I think, brought a lot of people together, and they've just said, enough, no more. And I'm one of them. No more.
Yeah. And let me ask you this, Richard. And this isn't in defense of or even a negative approach to any of this, because of my past guest on this show, and that most are friends of yours too as well. So I'm not making anything definitive by saying this, but let's say that we have you and I are sitting at a conference, and somebody comes up and sits down that you and I know, and they're telling us about their abduction experience where a craft landed in their backyard. They went out, they took off in the craft, and they were probed, and eyes were cut into, whatever, implants.
Right.
They had their experience. They come back and they sit down and they share this with us, and you and I are sitting there. Do you call BS at that moment to that person's face?
No, never.
Okay,
no.
Let me ask
Absolutely
you.
Absolutely not.
And so, but hold on. Yeah. This is where, because I've had my own experiences too. And when I have my experiences, that as crazy as they are, and somebody talks about going on a craft, or and experiencing communication and a close encounter of the third or fourth kind, how is that any difference in how we listen to them if they don't have the evidence that everybody wants to scream for? How is it different with Corey or Andy Bishago or Randy Kramer or anybody else that we're going to listen to? I
think it's a very good point that you raised, and I'm glad that you did. I mean, there's a great deal of nuance and gray area when you talk about people who've come forward with their experiences, and I just personally want folks to know if they hear me and sometimes they think, wow, he's coming down very hard against experiencers. Not true. Like, not true at all. I have spoken to and interviewed hundreds of individuals who've had very, very troubling and interesting and amazing experiences with what appear to be other beings that are not human. A lot of these people, I would say most, I find credible, but there's differences. All right. So with most of these people, I mean, I cannot prove their experiences. That is true. But that's not the same as saying that everyone's unprovable experiences are therefore equal, because I don't agree with that. There are other ways of judging it. So, for example, someone can come up to me at a conference, for example, and I don't know them from Adam, and they live a life pretty much in anonymity, and they come up to me and they say, look, I don't really want attention. I respect what you do, and this is something that happened to me X number of years ago. And they're not asking for anything. All right, so that carries a certain amount of weight to me.
Sure, it does.
And there's just the fact of how does human judgment work? This isn't a science. There's not a math equation that's in place for me or for anyone, I would think, where they say, they have the gavel and they say real or not real and so forth. It doesn't work like that. It's true. However, in the case of these whistleblowers, all right, so if you're going to make a claim that you went to Mars, let's say, all right, it may be the case that you can't prove that you went to Mars, right? I can understand that. So can you give us something else? Can you throw us a bone? Don't give me New Age ideology and platitudes, please. Mm-hmm. Don't give me any of that. Could you please, however, give me something that I can genuinely work with that is in any remote way verifiable and that doesn't reek of self-glorification and this type of thing that's happened. And also, I think I wasn't necessarily going to bring this up, but the Corey Goode and the Project Avalon server data situation is something that I think is a significant element here. And what is a fact is that, his Corey Goode was an active member of Project Avalon. And I know Bill Ryan, Bill Ryan, mm-hmm. who runs Avalon and has run it for years. Avalon is an amazing forum where very, very engaged individuals in this subject talk about pretty much every element of the subject under the sun, including Mars, including Antarctica, and all the other things that are out on the fringe, even for ufology. And what they were able to do is, because if you go to their site, they've got your IP. That's legal. They're able to do that. And they were able to do a data search on their forum server using the IP addresses that Corey Goode used most frequently from 2010 right up to 2014, and actually even beyond that. Now, it wasn't until September of 2014 that Corey Goode was interviewed by a woman named Christine Anderson and claimed to have sudden recent recall of his memories. But it is the fact that for 4 solid years before that, his file contained 6,539 entries or threads, basically, where he, from my point of view, looked like he was data mining the Project Avalon server data, looking up stuff that was written by like Michael Salla, Laura Eisenhower, myself, and many other people mm-hmm. on these things. And for 4 years, you're going into this intensely, and then suddenly, boom, you remember that you too had such experiences. Now, that doesn't even by itself prove that he went in and just stole everyone else's information, but it is very suspicious. It's very suspicious. So when you have that kind of a background, and then you go in and claim ownership over those very phrases that had been in existence for years before, I mean, how can you not be surprised when people kick back and just say, are you kidding? Like, what is wrong with you that you think you can do that? So there's a lot of problems here. And so for those reasons, I'm going to call BS on what he has to say. Mm. And that's it. I'm not the only one. I think there's lots of people. There is a genuine secret space program, but there's no evidence that it's the 20 and back program. And just because other people come out and say that they did the same thing, sorry, but you know what? No sale. That's not evidence. When people say, oh, well, so-and-so also says the same thing, like, how is that evidence? When people are just copying and pasting variations of the story. If someone wanted to go into this field and lay waste with disinformation, how long would it take them to study up on all of the themes that are in this field and come up with their own unprovable, self-glorifying story?
Well, I can answer that. Apparently,
it wouldn't be that difficult. No, it's not that difficult.
A couple of years on Project Avalon, and you go to school and you get a degree. So there you go. Let's take a break right here, Richard, and we'll pick up right where we left off when we come back. And I've got something else Richard should trademark. What that is, I'll tell you when we come back. Richard, stay right there.
Yes, sir.
Richard Dolan, Fade to Black, me, it doesn't get any better. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied, but you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm Katie Lee, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Cough button. Our guest tonight, Richard Dolan, and I had to have my coffee refilled. Okay, so now we're back in the saddle, and we're going to pick up right where we left off. And Richard,
yes,
breakaway civilization. Shouldn't you trademark that?
No, I don't think so. Absolutely, I don't think so. It was an interesting concept that I coined and developed. But here's the thing. You know what? Other people have taken that idea and made some very, very interesting conceptual breakthroughs on their own, totally independent of me. My friend and colleague, Joseph P. Farrell, has done that. He's written an entire book with breakaway civilization in the title. My attitude is excellent. Good for Joseph.
Okay, what about...
Because I don't own the idea. I mean, I developed the idea, but I don't own it. Like, it's not my property.
Okay, well, then...
and if other people come along and do better work or more sophisticated work with it, then thank goodness. Like, that's what we want.
Okay, well, at the next Contact in the Desert, I'm going to let you know our booths are next to each other. And at our booth, I am going to be selling Breakaway Civilization T-shirts.
I hope you make a lot of money on it. Go for it. And I'll be staring you down the whole time. Yeah, go for it. I'm not going to stop you.
And let's kind of stay on this subject for a second. I want to talk about whistleblowers. And when a whistleblower comes forward, before I get to the question, they need to feel comfortable that they can speak open and go forward with whatever it is that they're going to blow the whistle on, right? And I will certainly say that cease and desist letter from Corey's attorney certainly is going to stifle anybody else that would be thinking about coming forward, because they're going to get some kind of crazy cease and desist letter that doesn't have any merit to it, but they're afraid of that kind of stuff.
Right. It's a form of intimidation.
It's a form of intimidation.
There's no legal merit to it, as you just said. It's vacuous from a legal point of view. We've had a number of behind the scenes discussions about this, and there's just no way. But it is a form of intimidation, and I'm glad. I don't know Jason Rice, and nor do I really have an opinion at this point on the validity of his story. I don't, but I am glad that he wasn't intimidated by it, and that he spoke about it the way that he did publicly. And for that matter, I would just say I think what he wrote was very reasoned and very well put together.
The definition of a whistleblower, coming from your perspective, what is that definition?
Yeah, a whistleblower, first of all, it's got to be someone you have to know who they are. Like, you've got to be able to have some ability to confirm that they are who they say they are. If they can't do that, then they don't qualify. So as I like to say, William Binney, formerly of the NSA, is a whistleblower and, in my view, a hero. Double amputee, who's a man who created a lot of the code that the NSA used to spy illegally on the American public, and then went public about it, and much to his own risk. There's a lot of other whistleblowers like that. I would put Gary McKinnon in the UFO field in such a category. We know who Gary is. He wasn't a government insider, but he was someone who gained access to government information and put what information that he could out there. We can confirm his identity. I cannot confirm the first thing about Corey Goode's activities in a so-called secret space program. It's just not there. So no, he doesn't count. And
what about
none of these people? What about talking about Mars?
Okay, what about Jason Rice? Is by your definition, is he in that category? Is he a whistleblower?
Not yet. Not for me. No.
Emery Smith. What about Emery?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
No, Stephen Greer's bodyguard? No.
But I'm bummed. Try the veal.
2,000 autopsy procedures.
Richard's going to be here all week, everybody. Try the veal. He's the thing is, when is whistleblower for you a little bit too easily used? right? And does the classification
a little bit,
right?
Just a bit around the edges.
Just a bit around the edges, right? Is it a term? Is it a title that should be given to you? Right? You don't give yourself the title of whistleblower.
Yeah, I would think that in a good universe that would be the case as well. Now that you mentioned that, look, I mean, the phrase whistleblower has been bandied about with so that it's almost meaningless. It's like anyone who's got a good campfire story to tell is now the latest whistleblower. I mean, we need a little bit more than this, right? I mean, do we have no self-respect for ourselves in this discipline that we just take anyone who's got the latest, greatest, crazy story that can never be proven, that is just out of a Hollywood movie? Most of these, I mean, is reality truly that black and white? Like the good, versus the absolute evil entities over here, and the white hats and the black hats. Like, does anyone honestly think reality is that utterly simplistic? I mean, that's what you get in a bad Hollywood B movie. Reality, is not that way. The world doesn't break down like that. So, I mean, is it possible that there could be some truth in some of the claims of these people? Yes, the answer is yes. In the case of Corey Goode, when you go data mining through the Avalon site, yes, you're going to find information that's genuine. Of course you will. And could there be truth in, is it marginally possible that some of these whistleblowers have been mind screwed in such a way that they've been made useless for the rest of the world, made to look ridiculous, so that anything that they say is just going to be dismissed out of hand? I mean, I've wondered this. But of course, I don't have access to my own time machine, so I can't go back and find out what they were actually doing back in the day. And B, I'm not a mind reader.
All right.
So I don't have these capabilities. So all I can do is use the best tools at my disposal, which are evidence that I can acquire and as much common sense and insight as I'm able to bring to bear, which admittedly is limited because I'm just a human being. And all we can do is our best. But when we just throw out all ability and all willingness to hold claims to certain types of evidentiary standards, then why are we bothering then at all? Why bother? When I broke into the UFO field over 20 years ago, I did so because I believed that there was a case, an evidentiary case, that could be made for the reality of this ridiculed and marginalized phenomenon. And I very strongly believe that to this day. So it's all evidence-based. What would it be for me to write a bunch of histories where there's not a single piece of evidence that I can document, and I just tell people, trust me, this is true? That doesn't help. So the only way that we can help move this field forward in a real way, not in a fantasy way, is by being evidence-based, and that's difficult. In the old TV show, what was it, Law and Order, where they would have a case that they knew that this guy did the crime. And then the defense attorney would say, well, that's not admissible, Jack, and they would do their best to try to get admissible evidence. That's our world. You can't just toss out anything because you think it sounds right. We have rules of evidence. We ought to have standards that we apply so that we have a common language of how to move forward in this field. Anyone can make a claim. And but not everyone can back that claim up with evidence. And if you can't, then no. In the case of genuine whistleblowers, they're able to provide tangible, actual evidence and departments that other journalists and investigators can then dig into and find. They can find it.
Richard, what do we do?
If you can't find it, then you got to wonder what's going on here.
Yeah, and this is okay. And this is a very fascinating aspect of this, which is you and I, we're at a conference. Pick one; it doesn't matter. And I introduce, Corey. There's 500, 600, 700 people there for Corey. The line goes down the hall, right? And then across the hall, there is somebody else that is speaking about their UFO research across the hall to 20 people, right? And here you are watching me introduce, you're there, right? You're there. And you watch me do this introduction. You have this packed room that is there resonating with Corey, but yet across the hall, there are 20 people that are listening to somebody else's research that is just equally as important. But why do we have this difference? It is as polarized. I don't understand it.
I do. It's market and demand. So there are certain markets that are very, very hungry for certain types of information, and there's always going to be someone willing to fill that market need. There's a great hunger among many people who are interested in the UFO subject for solid answers and for fascinating insider claims, and because we all know that there's secrecy, we all know there's a cover-up, and so there's lots of people out there who hunger for that kind of certainty. They want that. And then when somebody comes along and offering that certainty, or seemingly offering that certainty, yes, absolutely, many people will gravitate to it. And here's the thing: I don't even begrudge someone if they speak to a packed house, 1,000 people or more. That is fine. Like, I'm a great believer in free enterprise, capitalistic, make your money the way you want to make your money. Like, I absolutely am a believer in that, and I think it's made this Western civilization such a powerhouse and a fount of creativity and innovation. So I think it's wonderful. And even if someone wants to make their money in less than ethical ways, well, if they're not actually actively harming someone else, well, let the buyer beware. Mm-hmm. But what I would say is that in an area where I am trying and other people are trying to help this marginalized, important subject gain credibility so that we can have an intelligent public conversation about it, which we desperately need. All right. Then yes, I too am allowed to state my issues and my problems with that type of a presentation. And that's really all that it is. If these types of arguments were simply on the margin and no one was listening, well, I wouldn't care either. It's like, well, there's always cranks out there. But this has become actually a very, very significant part of the UFO field. And I just want to say this to you. Like, you've often talked about, the need for unity in the UFO community. And I understand that. But can you or anyone think of anything more disruptive to the UFO community than the intrusion of Corey Goode and his claims over the past 4 years? Like, I cannot think of a single thing that has actually been more divisive, more disruptive, more distracting than that. So there's a problem here. There's a problem in that it has successfully caused such a chasm. And there are other wastes of time that we've had in this field. A whole ramp up to the ascension of 2012 was just one big, huge embarrassment for this field. I mean, there were people. I actually met someone at that time in the ramp up to 2012 who stopped paying her either her rent or her mortgage or something like that because she said, oh, well, when it all happens, it won't matter. I'm like, you're crazy. You're deluded. I don't know what happened to her. Probably out on the streets. And then, the whole Comet Elenine of 2011, what a waste of time that was. That was supposed to be a spaceship. No. And on and on. So our field has always been filled with these types of distractions, and that's unfortunate, and maybe that's just how it's always going to be. But that doesn't mean that we have to just sit down and say, oh, well, here's another one. So we can speak up. We can just say, not this time. This has gone on too long enough.
Will it? Okay, so let's discuss. Let's cite a very specific example of this where I think that the community has just moved on. Billy Meyer. We have a situation here where a gazillion books have been sold, a gazillion videos. I would say that largely, and I'm just speaking about the community, a large amount of it has been completely debunked. Yet he lives in a pretty nice house in Switzerland, right? He's probably got pretty good money flow, multiple areas that are coming in. But the community has moved on. And the subject, it's just like a big whatever thing when it comes to Billy Meyer. Is that the same thing that would happen over and over again? Look at, we can bring up William Moore or other things that have very dark things in our past. You know about the Roswell slides and that fiasco in Mexico City. Is this community able to just rebound and move on, and next year all of this is past tense?
Yes, no, we can always move on. The fortunate thing is that the UFO subject remains the great constant in this, and it's the thing that we can all come back to. Mm-hmm. The things that you mentioned, one of which I was associated with, the whole Roswell slide debacle. They're all different. Like the Billy Meyer thing's a little different, and some of these others, the William Moore thing, are a little different. But they're all they were various crises, some big, some little, that the UFO research community faced. And actually, it's really true that in every one of those cases, there were the apocalypse people who said, this is the end of ufology. And, they're saying it now, too, I think, some of them with Corey Goode. And, of course, it's not the end of ufology. As long as there's a phenomenon for us to study and to keep coming back to, then we'll be fine. The thing is, it's like in a boxing match where you get knocked down onto the canvas a few times. You got to keep getting back up and come back at it again. That's what this is all about. So I don't think this is a disaster. I don't think it's something that we, as a community, can't recover from. No, absolutely not. In fact, most people, all serious researchers, are continuing and they're doing their work just like they've always done. So that's never changed. There's lots of people out there doing very, very excellent investigative work, research, and so on, and continuing to make progress in this field. So that's the good thing. And that's where I think, we're all best served. But the emotionally unsatisfying aspect of that, at least for some people, is that those answers are not always quite as definitive as the answers that are provided by people who claim that they've had these incredible, Hollywood adventures on other planets.
The question of proof, which you brought up earlier, is something that we are always looking for. What is it? Where's the proof?
Or even evidence. I mean, proof is hard.
Yeah, it is.
I don't demand proof from people coming to me with claims. I mean, sometimes that's not realistic, but at least evidence.
Okay, so with that,
you got to work with me.
Yeah, let's break it down a little bit. I want to pick your brain when you're dealing with an experiencer. What are you looking for there as far as evidence and proof when it's just an experience?
To be honest with you, if an experiencer comes up to me, I just met with someone. I just met with an experiencer locally yesterday. Met this man for the first time, and I was introduced to him. We had a nice conversation, and as I do with lots of folks, I listen as carefully as I'm able to, which is I listen to this man very carefully. You size people up. You get character references, which I have one for this gentleman in particular. Mm-hmm. You learn everything you can about their life. And you do your best to assess it, and that's it. With most of these people who will come to me with experiences, I don't know that I can say for sure that someone's telling me the truth or someone's lying to me. It's a matter of degree. I can't prove that this man that I met yesterday, for instance, is absolutely honest. Maybe he's a brilliant psychopathic liar. I don't think so, but I suppose any of these things are possible. So when I make a conclusion about someone's claims, they're usually provisional and always subject to revision based on new information that comes my way. And that's the best I can do.
We're going to head towards a break here, but there's another part of the experiencer abductee phenomenon that has completely intrigued me, and it's weird how it kind of overlaps into other aspects of the secret space program and SAPs and whatnot, which is these abductees that talk about going to an underground facility. There are many out there that share these same thing, where they show up, they're underground, and they see U.S. military personnel in uniform. Mm-hmm. They'll see a mantis being, they'll see a tall Nordic, they'll see some grays operating some gear, and maybe instructions in classrooms, and very elaborate, stories. Now, what do we do with that when it is repeated over and over again?
Yes. I mean, I'm of the opinion that when you get that type of story from so many parts of the data spectrum, that they'll come in and have this story, whether it's in 1969 or 1975 or 1972 or 1988 or 1989
or 2017.
Right. When they continually come, and if we can be careful with at least doing our level best with trying to legitimately get that information out of an individual, then yes, I think, and there is a very consistent story that a lot of these folks are saying, whether it's about military abductions or abductions by non-humans, whether aliens or alien-human hybrids and the like. So there's a lot of consistency. So for these types of stories, yes, I give a very high level of credibility to them, credence. Doesn't mean that I know for an absolute fact. I don't say a 100%, but I definitely give them my probability. But when a alleged whistleblower comes at us and provides a Hollywood script, essentially, so really what these are, garnished with New Age philosophy and ideology that is clearly designed for a particular kind of market, then no. I mean, I will be very suspicious of that, yes.
And why is it, and we need to take a break here, but the New Age aspect of this, and especially as of late, has been interwoven into what should be not only a terrifying experience, but also the killing of, or the enslavement of, and so forth. And then you have this New Age dialogue that is interwoven into it.
Yeah.
Why is that? Is it to grow the audience? I mean,
well, we should continue this for the next segment because it's a very important subject. The New Age influence in ufology has had a very damaging effect. It's not that there's no legitimacy to understanding things like telepathy and consciousness in the UFO field, or even things like space-time, reality, and quantum physics. No, we can explore all of that because they're important. But the philosophy, the ideology, which we collectively call New Age ideology, this has had a very damaging effect to UFO research and the UFO community. And it's really part of the reason why we have these whistleblowers, because, in other words, with the New Age ideology, again, there's no emphasis on evidence. It's all, a lot of it comes down to what you feel in your heart chakra, or, and I don't mean to laugh at someone's belief, but when you're basing your belief on feeling and intuition rather than evidence, then you're going down a very dangerous road where anything is possible and you don't need to back it up. And then you get these whistleblowers who follow through with that. There's no evidence, but it feels right. And that is the worst way to go into this subject, is based on your feelings. You got to go on evidence. You got to be an investigator.
Let's pick this up. We're leaving off. Our guest tonight, Richard Bleepin Dolan. I'm allegedly trademarked. I'll be right back after this short break. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm Katie Lee, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Sorry about repeating that commercial break, but, you know, things like that happen. It's live radio. Our guest tonight, Richard Bleepin Dolan. Very open and frank conversation about what's going on right now in our UFO community. And, Richard, check this out. Speaking of New Age, I'm at a private party. Nice big home up in the hills, right? New agey group there. And I'm in the kitchen around the island, and I'm going to say there's 25 people packed into this kitchen. And somebody turns to me. I don't know anybody there, by the way. And somebody turns to me and says, "So what do you do?" I said, "I'm a radio host." "Oh, really? Where?" And I said, "Well, Fade to Black, and I also do the weekend stuff over at Coast to Coast AM." And I got this blank look. And what is Coast to Coast AM? And I turned and I exactly right. So I turned to everybody in the kitchen, Rita as my witness, and I just go, "So, who here listens to Coast? Nobody, right in the room." And now, in a weird way, it's very cool. I don't have to explain myself. I don't have to talk about Fade to Black. I don't have to talk about I don't have to take any questions, right? I don't have to field anything. But it was pretty surprising to me to have a room full of new age, crystal-bearing, awakening, enlightened vegans, right? the real deal, too. Nobody listened to Coast. Now, isn't that interesting? And I've gone to conferences where I've gone to, these new age events where there isn't a UFO subject anywhere. And now it seems like it's trying to bleed into each other. And I find it a fascinating thing. Oh, by the way, Canada ran out of weed. I just wanted to let you know. I know you're close to the border, and they just legalized. And I know you're a dual citizen. Yeah, they ran out of weed. Yeah, Tracy's laughing.
My mom told me that.
That Canada ran out of weed.
Tracy's mother, like the sweetest Canadian lady you'll ever meet, she was upset about it, apparently. How are we going to score? She just knew. Oh, she just knew. Okay, she's not a... No, I want to clear Tracy's mother's name. Her mother does not, to my knowledge, smoke weed.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Yeah, it's one of the most liberating feelings in the world. Have you been to a pot store? No, you're in New York. It's not legal there, right?
No, not even medically.
Oh, man. When you and Tracy, next time you're in California, I am going to take you to a pot store just because. Right? Just because. It is the craziest feeling when you walk into a pot store here in California where it's...
I'm going to live stream it when I go in.
Yeah, you can. And just look around and look at these hundreds of jars of weed and the smell and the edibles and the things and as they fill up your bag, right? And they go, "Would you like a couple free joints?" Sure, yeah, throw them in the bag. And
I'm going to be Captain Bring Down here. You're just going to let me do it. So yes, of course, I've smoked pot in my life numbers of times, and I think fine, you want to smoke pot, do it. But I will say, and I think it's really important to say this, that when people really turn drugs into this wonderful thing, you're kind of doing the CIA's work for you. That's really the truth. So the CIA pioneered the use of hallucinogens. We all know about the CIA and LSD, and how this MK Ultra and the CIA's various mind control programs were deeply involved in the use of things like LSD and other types of drugs, not necessarily weed per se. But the idea, there's a very excellent book by a fellow named John Potash called Drugs as Weapons Against Us, and I highly, highly recommend this book. And just like the late Dave McGowan talked about Laurel Canyon as a kind of operation to create the hippie movement of the 60s to derail the active peace movement, so too I think that there's a case to be made. And I think people really need to understand that the proliferation of recreational drugs is something that is used against us because, yeah, it's fun, it's nice. You can have, it's like, having a drink, or you want to get a little high, fine, but it takes you off your game. And the more people do it, the more off their game they are. And the next thing you know, your life has gone by. So I'm just going to say that. There you go.
It reminds me of
over.
I know, right? It reminds me of an episode, I think it was Saturday Night Live. I could be wrong. It might have been a movie. But it's just like, okay, go ahead, smoke the weed. Go ahead, get all complacent. The next thing you know, China's invading the United States. They're going to catch us off guard. Right.
I want to say one other thing, by the way. I over a decade ago, I was on the phone with Catherine Austin Fitts, and We were talking about finance and money, and she's taught me so much about that, and I still can't keep up with her. But I was on one of my bitch fests that I often will do, my rants, and we were talking about drugs. And I was just saying, damn it, they should just legalize all the drugs. I'm just sick of this criminalization of drugs. And she said, well, that's fine, Richard, but you realize that would cause a banking failure like the next day. And I said, okay, stop right there. Let's talk about this. And her point was very logical. She said, well, let's just say you're a Mexican drug lord and you're trying to run $100 million through the Chase Bank of New York, which actually did happen back in, I think, 01, 02. It was Raul Salinas, the brother of the former president of Mexico, and it was Daniel Salinas. Anyway, his $114 million of his was stopped going from Mexico through the Chase Bank of New York. And Chase was obviously embarrassed, and they had their talking head out there saying, well, this is a highly irregular transfer. Fortunately, we have procedures in place to catch these things. Of course, I'm thinking Raul Salinas was not some idiot. Obviously, he had good reason to think his money would be able to go through and to be laundered properly. And this time he got caught. Probably someone ratted it out, and they're probably dead. But the point is, Catherine said, drugs are so unbelievably profitable. Everyone wants that money. Everyone wants drug money, from a street corner pusher to a cop on the take to a judge to entire agencies to intelligence agencies like the CIA or the GRU or the Pakistanis or the Israelis or whatever. They all want it because it's too much. And if suddenly you legalized it, all of that money that washes through unofficially our global system, suddenly it just goes away. It becomes above board. And those people who've benefited from getting their 5%, wetting their beak on this transaction and so on, that all stops. And she argued that a great deal, I don't know how much, but a lot of the banking system relies necessarily on illegal drug transactions. So, you know, we want our drugs. People want our drugs. They want to be able to zone out. But all of this is interconnected with a very, very deeply criminal and awful enterprise that's making the world worse, not better.
I wanted to ask you, can you imagine, and we were just talking about the New Age stuff, if you went to a New Age conference, you and I, and we are walking through the crowd and not one person recognizes you?
That's happened many times. Yeah, I'm quite used to that.
It's a pretty fascinating concept because you would think that the two are completely familiar with each other, but you could probably walk through one of those conferences and nobody would know what Roswell was, right?
Well, I mean, to an extent, yeah. I mean, there's some overlap, obviously, but no, the New Age community is much, much larger, much more money than the UFO culture, I would say.
Right.
There's a lot of money there. A lot of money. There's a lot of money in the Christian community, as I've learned. I've had some interactions with them, and they can put some money out there. And the New Age community, probably equally. Those are very lucrative markets. So it's not surprising that you find people work in those markets.
I wanted to ask you about Bob Lazar. And
sure. Why? I mean, I'm happy to, but what brought this on?
Because just like Corey's got a new movie coming out. Okay, it's distributed by The Orchard, / Sony. Stephen Greer just had his movie out a couple of. It was last year, Unacknowledged. Yeah. Again, same distribution network. Jeremy Corbell just released Skinwalker, another mainstream film, and his next
I rather liked.
His next film, I haven't seen it yet, but I do intend to watch it.
Well, George Knapp really makes it. Jeremy's a fine filmmaker.
Yes, he is.
Jeremy. But it's really George Knapp's material from the 90s that make that film just riveting.
And now
Jeremy does good work in putting it all together.
He's got a keen eye for cinematography, and
without a doubt.
He's very humble about it, but he's just got it's a real talent. It's a world-class talent. So But his next film is Lazar, and we have the same situation here where Bob has survived many waves of criticism over the years, and now this new film is coming out. Where do we stand on that when we talk about evidence and proof? And do you classify him as a whistleblower? Certainly, Area 51 wouldn't be the household name today.
Yes, no, I do. I'm a supporter of Bob Lazar. And I'll just say I've caught a lot of hell for that over the years by a lot of people. I took a long, long time before I made some kind of provisional decision on what I thought about Bob Lazar. Probably the whole first decade of the 20th century, to be honest with you. When I wrote my first book, came out in 2000, and second edition came out in 2002, I didn't really know what to think about Lazar's story. I hadn't dove into it sufficiently to know, and I was afraid. There's so many minefields in the UFO field, obviously, and Lazar's story was definitely one of the big ones. And but by the time I finally, I got to it, and I thought, well, I've got to really throw myself into this. And I read probably every statement Lazar made back in those days, 89, 90, 91. He was extremely consistent, actually. And then, getting into the claims of people like Stan Friedman that Lazar was a fraud and so forth, and that he didn't go to MIT and he didn't go to Caltech. And well, it turns out actually that Lazar, I think, I think what it was is he audited classes at MIT. He didn't go, and I don't think that he really claimed the things that he did. And if he did, I do know, George Knapp proved that he went to Los Alamos National Labs, where he worked there, and he did certainly meet with Edward Teller, who certainly provided the impetus for getting Lazar hired where he was. And then on top of that, I spoke to a number of people who are, oh golly, now I'm in a position of I can't mention someone's name or not. And I want to be able to mention this person's name. He's pretty well known. But I guess I'll just say I had a number of people provide very strong confirmation that Lazar was where he said he was at the time that he was there. And I believe it. Now, that doesn't mean that every single thing Lazar said is true. I don't know if his information is accurate or not. But I do believe that he is truthful about what he said he did. And I was sitting right in the audience at the International UFO Congress in, was it 2015? 15, yeah, when he was there. In fact, I spoke on the same stage the same day. And I listened to Lazar with George Knapp up there, and I thought Bob Lazar gave a very excellent accounting for himself. So, no, I believe him. I think that he did what he said he did. And so, yeah, he's a whistleblower, in my view.
How has the UFO question changed? Because I think there's been a definite shift over the last 2 to 3 years because of some pretty big things happening. Certainly, there's TTSA. There is this Corey Good side of things. There is the growth of Gaia TV. Very big conferences across this country that are sold out, and then and television in general. There has been this elevation. I just named 4 major films, right, that have been released in the last.
Well, what we're seeing, this is all the result of the web. Like fundamentally, all of it. It's all the result of interconnectivity. Like back in the 80s and prior, the genuine interest in UFOs could be muted by what I like to call our official culture, the official establishment, because they had such dominant power over the methods by which information would get out, whether through newspapers, which are all part of the Mockingbird system, or TV, which is even worse. And so it was only the development of this crazy new thing called the internet, where people were actually able. They didn't need a middleman. They didn't need a school marm nanny to say, no, you can't put this out. They just did it. And so what happened was this explosion of information and opinion and claims and everything else. And it just became like the Wild West almost overnight. And by the turn of the century, what had happened is that the interest in the UFO phenomenon, see, that's real, that's genuine, that's something that resonates with people. A lot of people don't realize that they are fascinated by this until they encounter it. And then they discover this hunger for truth and for knowledge. And so what's happened is that because of this development of this internet, people have been able to express this interest. UFOs have always been one of the most popular things to search on the web and on the internet since the beginning. And so what's happened is that the establishment media has had to adapt to that. And it's no longer just the establishment media anymore. Like, it's really easy for a lot of people now to break in and make their own movies, like Jeremy and like a lot of other folks. So you're seeing this explosion of creativity and of people making their own statements. I mean, on YouTube and everywhere else, there's all of these people that are just out there. So it's become this massive movement. And this is why, like, when I talk about disclosure as a paradox, it's impossible and it's inevitable. It is both of these things. Like, I've always felt disclosure about UFOs is impossible in the sense that there's really no motivation that I see among the powers that be, right, to give up this secret that is so revolutionary and damaging to the status quo. On the other hand, they're not the only people making the decisions, because we have a society in the process of revolutionary social, economic, and intellectual change, and infrastructure change. So the equation's constantly in flux, and this is why TTSA actually was able to do what they did. A lot of people have said TTSA is simply an intel op, and I'm not of this opinion, and I realize there are people who will criticize me for this. But I'm saying this at least partially on the basis of the fact that I've known Hal Puthoff for many, many years, and I've known him personally, and I respect him. And there's nothing that anyone's going to say to me to make me not respect that man. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have a motivation for doing what he does with TTSA, or that no one has their own personal motivations. I mean, everyone's got motivations that are private and personal, and everyone wants to make their money. But ultimately, what happened with TTSA is that you have this true believer, this guy, Tom DeLonge, who was clearly into the subject, you know, and, you know, he probably, yes, he wanted to turn it into a venture. So you can say that's a bad thing, or you can say that you don't care, whatever. It's just how it is. But this type of thing, as I see it, is kind of a historical inevitability. Like, we're at the point where the capability to generate forward motion on this is too great. And so that the establishment has had to make, and is going to have to continue to make, concessions to this rising tide of people who want this disclosure. So, of course, the establishment's going to try to take as much control over the spin of that disclosure as possible. And you have to expect that. That doesn't make them evil either. Everyone's got their part to play here. So their job is to spin, and our job is to correct that spin. Our job is to tear away the veneers of spin and deception and half-truths and so forth. And that's where we're at right now.
Well,
so I
Richard,
think we're seeing this. The dike is breaking. The dam is breaking.
Yeah, the dam is definitely breaking. But let me ask you a very direct question. When you say that TTSA isn't an intel op, what makes you come to that conclusion when this community is staring down the eyeballs of members of the CIA and the defense intelligence community and counterintelligence, and the list is very long for those that have been creating counterintelligence against this community for years, and suddenly this is who is running this company. Yeah. Where does that trust from you come from right now?
Yeah, well, that's a fair question. So I would say this. First of all, anyone who's looked at the intelligence community knows it's not a single monolith. It's a labyrinth. And there have always been people in the intelligence community who do not believe in the UFO secrecy. And that's the fact. Now, I don't know every one of the people involved in TTSA, but I know Hal Puthoff. And as I say, I believe in his integrity. And I believe that he believes in the desirability of breaking this logjam that we're having in our society. I believe that about him. I can't speak personally about the other people involved here. And the thing is, yes, they're all out of intel. And so we need to recognize that. But does that mean that they're actually doing an op? Like, is this an op? Has anyone been able to prove that it's an op? Has anyone provided evidence that this is an op? If they have, I'm not aware of it, and maybe that's just my fault.
Well,
but I don't know that it's been a provable op.
Yeah, the counter argument to that is an easy one. You can't prove that it is not. I mean, that's, right.
So we're kind of spinning in circles here, and
sure.
And my attitude is this argument is almost part of the postmodernist infection of our intellect in today's world. And by that I simply mean we've gone into the habit of looking behind arguments rather than at arguments. We've gone into the habit of looking at what we perceive as motivations of people for saying what they do rather than what they're actually saying and doing. So in the case of TTSA, what I've seen is over the last year, they've actually said a lot. Like Puthoff's speech at SSE earlier this year, Society of Scientific Exploration, was like an earthquake in its importance. I mean, here he is talking explicitly about a object that's of bismuth and magnesium of a certain type of structure that came to them. This is back in the Art Bell days when someone said this is part of a UFO crash retrieval. And Hal Puthoff's talking explicitly about how for years they tried understanding this thing and they couldn't make heads or tails out of it. And only recently have they been able, they couldn't figure out who made it, what it would be for. And only very recently, he said, have they been able to understand this as a very excellent, he calls, waveguide for electromagnetic frequencies in the terahertz range. And I'm looking that up and like, what is a waveguide and what is this? So a waveguide is like a canal is a waveguide for water. It guides things. So this very, very sophisticated piece of this artifact of whatever it is a highly sophisticated piece of technology. Now, is there an ulterior motive that he has to say what he does? Well, I don't know what that is, but I know that he said what he did, and that's an important piece of factual information that we now can work with. They've released 3 videos, and people have argued about those videos, but I'm at the point where I don't believe that those are fake. There is a big argument on Metabunk, and I'm familiar with it all. And for a while, I thought maybe the gimbal video was indeed a hoax, but I don't believe it is. I think that what they've put out is legit. Now, if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, and I'm allowed to be wrong, but this is what I believe at this point. So what they've done is they've done some very tangible things that we can work with. And the fact that they got an article out because they were fundamentally behind what happened with the New York Times piece last December. And let me just say, I have zero regard for the New York Times. They do the work of the empire. They lied about Iraq. They were almost, you could say they were responsible in large part for the destruction of that entire nation based on lies. And we should never forgive them for that. And for so many other lies that the New York Times promulgates. And so and they've lied about UFOs since forever. So why should we, so what is the significance of this December 17th, 2017 article?
It's like a paradox.
It is, but my interpretation on this has been, and it remains so far, I think, that they did it to maintain as much spin and control over the story as possible. Because this was coming out. In other words, TTSA's forward motion was happening. That was absolutely happening. And my opinion is that someone at the top of the New York Times structure said, all right, we'll do this because we will contain and control and will be the waveguide for this story. And in fact, we now know, they did a lot of deceptions and inaccuracies in their coverage. We know that most of that $22 million that supposedly was with ATIP actually went to study the Skinwalker Ranch, and they didn't cover that. So there's a lot of other things.
So what do we do with this? You're saying that
what
they
happens
have a
is
hit.
That the New York Times, despite all of their lies and obfuscation and lack of credibility, they actually, despite themselves, because of the force of history, put out something on the UFO subject that actually gave it some credence. That in itself is an incredible moment in modern UFO history. And yes, the New York Times lies. Yes, the New York Times spins. but this much actually happened. And they did as much damage control over that story as possible, but still it came out. And that is because there is a force of history happening here. And in that sense, it's actually really exciting to see.
Let's take a break right here. It's very interesting, Richard, though, that you're saying the past is the past. This article is solid, so now we must trust.
We'll come back to that. It's not
exactly. Our guest tonight, Richard.
Quite what I said.
Exactly. That's why you're Richard Bleepin Dolan. I'm just a dude on a microphone. And we'll pick up this conversation when we come back. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Richard Dolan. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Teppy. Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
If you have hard water, the lime scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate lime scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products, available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Faded Black, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Richard at Rich Dolan. Don't do Richard. You got to do Rich on Twitter. It's right there at Rich Dolan. Richard, Rita just popped into the bunker here and said, are you going to open up the phones? You want to take some phone calls?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Sure, why not?
Okay.
I have no opinion on this matter.
I have no opinion on this matter. All right.
Phone calls is like, I mean, we're going down this dark road, Jimmy, with phone calls.
Yeah, let's...
let's see how that goes.
Yeah, I'll do the dance with you. Okay, 323-275-9695 or 818-921-6929. And I'll leave it there. I opened up those floodgates, Richard. Here we go. I'm going to put this one on hold, and there you go. Okay, so now I wanted to ask you this. We were talking about the New York Times before the break.
Oh, right.
But before
you somewhat mischaracterized my position on the New York Times. I really need to say this.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you meant to. I'm going to give you that much, but I think you did.
Okay.
Inadvertently, let us say.
Sure.
Because I don't think, it's not that, like if I want to read, how did the Mets do last night? I'm sure the New York Times will tell me pretty accurately how they did. I mean, the New York Times will give news on certain things. Now, they will spin their news on other things that matter, and that includes UFOs. And as I just said before the break, like the New York Times spun the hell out of the ATIP story and out of the information that was basically pushed out there by TTSA. But it doesn't mean that everything that they put out there was therefore illegitimate. Like there were things that they put out that were and remain meaningful and fundamentally, Fravor's military encounter off the coast of California that he and 3 other pilots had encountering the Tic Tac UFO. That's important. And they didn't give by any means, a complete narrative of what happened there, but they gave enough that it broke through and got some attention. So there were important things there. And I feel they did it. It's like you have to give up some in order to maintain as much control as possible. And I think that's what they did.
Do you think that a year from now, do you think that TTSA has missed the boat? And like a year from now, that we are going to look back and go, wow, that TTSA effort was interesting last year, but it just may go away.
I mean, they did so many awful missteps and horrible. I mean, my God, Tom DeLonge's interview on Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Cringe fest. It was the worst, absolute worst. And then the whole Mylar balloon fiasco and all of this other stuff. I mean, just ridiculous. In fact, I did the show with you and Steve Merritt where we talked about that. Remember?
Right. Yeah, I do remember that.
So there were a lot of really unforgivable mistakes that they made, but I see them as mistakes. Bush League, for sure, but I don't see that as disinfo. I just see that as like total screw up. But the thing is, it's not all about Tom DeLonge, and I think what we're seeing is that Putoff and Semivan and Elizondo and these others, there's a real possibility that they're going to be putting more information out there. Look, I don't think that they're the saviors by any means, but I'm glad that they're out there. I mean, I'm interested in what more they may be able to provide in terms of information. Putoff's company is Earth Tech, and he's put out the word that he wants materials from alleged UFO crash retrievals. So, and he has said, now maybe he's being truthful, maybe not. He said that information that he gets and research he does will be made public. So that would be a good thing. So my attitude is let these people try to do their thing. If he has ulterior motives to make $1 trillion off the tech, well, fine. Let the man make his money. Like what we want is information and scientific data that we can work with to move this field forward. This is my attitude about it. Like, I mean, for people who are out there to get angry over the fact that anyone makes money at all in any field, it's like, what are you, Stalinist communism? Like, let's grow up and recognize that people have lives to live. And so Earth Tech if he wants to make money off of technology that he can develop based on crash retrievals, well, fine, whatever. Like, who really cares enough to bitch about this? The fundamentals are that the information is getting out there, and this is where I'm at least philosophically with it. So I don't know if TTSA will fall flat. If it, people have talked about the $37 million that they called as a loss, and I just shrugged my shoulders at that. Like, Amazon lost money and has every single quarter for how many years? It didn't stop their valuations from going through the roof. Like, the fact that a corporation loses money is not necessarily a meaningful thing about their capabilities. And even the boilerplate message of, worried about or concerned about our ability to continue. I mean, whatever it was they said, that's just legalistic boilerplate. So what does it really mean? Well, I don't know, but I don't think the sky is falling. And I think people are really looking into TTSA as the most devious of operations. And it's not that there hasn't been a comical series of major gaffes and screw-ups. There have been, but there has been another side to it as well. So I'm just willing to see how it all plays out.
All right, let's go to the phones. Area code 508. You're up on Faded Black. Say hi to Richard Dolan. Who's calling?
Chris.
Hey, Chris. What do you got for Richard?
Just would first like to say thank you, Richard, for everything that you do. I'm a big follower of you. I've been following you for a few years now. I live in central Massachusetts, and I happen to live in the founder of the American Red Cross's house, Clara Barton, which our town is well known for. And she walks around this house a little bit. She gives us, me and my wife and my 2 young children, some good messages every once in a while. And I just want to say, you're doing a really good job, Richard. But like you said earlier, with the whole Bob Lazar thing, it took you 10 years to get to where you are now. And perhaps maybe some of the ways that you feel about certain things, with certain people who are maybe coming forward and talking about the things that they are kind of going to become known fact in about another 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So,
sure.
I just want.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that, Chris. I honestly do. And one thing I like to try to do as much as possible is to take my time to make a decision. And look, I mean, I have a certain opinion. I assume you're referring to Corey Good right now. And if something were to happen over the next few years where new evidence were to come forward to validate things that he says, I can say this very honestly, that I would change my public opinion about it. And I would support whatever I think is true about it. I mean, the thing about my attitude on this is I never ever want to get to a point where I feel ideologically committed to a particular answer. So if new information comes my way, then it's my job, honestly, to change my assessment of it. So I assume that's what you were kind of getting at.
But thank you for the phone call, Chris. Let's go to area code 602. You're up next on Fade to Black. Who's calling? Say hi to Richard.
This is Natasha Nix from Mysterious Forces Live. Hello.
Oh, man, it's Natasha Nix, Richard.
Hey, Natasha.
Hey, I have to give a shout out to everybody in the chat room at Richard's YouTube channel. CW Chanter, the Dark Journalist, Joe from the Carolinas. Hello, everybody. Jimmy, I have to ask you a question, Jimmy.
Sure.
If you lived in an old West town about 150 years ago, and you were the doctor in the town, and your medicine was imperfect, and your knowledge was imperfect, but you did a pretty good job of treating the townspeople. And one day, a snake oil salesman rolls into town across the street, and he starts selling snake oil to your patients. Would you get upset? Would you think that somehow the whole practice of medicine had been sullied because the snake oil salesman rolled up across the street?
I'm trying to connect with what you're. I'm going to throw that to Richard. Do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, I think I get it, and I would say, yeah, I would probably have a problem with that if I'm a doctor, a legitimate doctor, doing my best to treat people, and I see a charlatan coming into town and providing fake cures, which I think is what Natasha's getting at. Then yeah, I mean, I would raise the alarm, and I would try to raise public awareness as much as possible, and say, hey, look. My opinion is that this is not useful. This is not helpful. You're wasting your money, and you won't get better.
There you go. That I got.
Which is what we're doing here.
Yeah, I got to agree with Richard on that one. So there you go.
I love you. I love you, Jimmy.
Right back at you, Natasha.
Thank you.
You're cutting out. Actually, it's unfortunate.
It's okay.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a great night. That was a bad connection there. Let's go to, let's see. I'm going to go with, let's try a first-time caller. Let's go here. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Richard Dolan.
Hey, Richard. How are you?
Hi.
Big fan.
Thank you.
Huge fan, actually.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. I left a chat earlier. I was at work hoping for a new Richard Dolan upload, and then I got a notification about the live stream, which I totally forgot was coming. I'm very excited about that. And I'm a first-time caller.
Yeah, there you go. What's your question for Richard?
So I'm curious as to what your opinion of the other intelligence, as we might refer to it, being of an inner Earth.
Okay.
So cut out. Okay.
Yeah, I think I cut out. What do you think about, Richard, the inner Earth possibilities of something living inside of this planet?
Well, I, as a publisher, a number of years ago, I published one of the books by Dr. Richard Sauter on underground bases and tunnel systems, clandestine underground facilities, which I will just say, ever since I really meticulously went through his work, I've had no problem and have no problem believing that there is very likely a substantial and deep underground infrastructure. Now, I mean, there's lots of variations on theories of inner Earth civilizations and so forth, and I don't really know how far back on this I go, but I do think that there's a current substantial underground infrastructure. A lot of it's from our own human civilization, in my judgment. But I would think, and I'm only just going on the basis of UFO cases that are coming to my mind that deal with underwater UFOs, that actually under the ocean floor and under deep underground would probably be good places for the presence of others to reside as well. I think it would actually make a lot of sense. But to me, it's a theory based on, it's a hypothesis that's supported by some evidence. How far back it goes, I have no idea.
Let's go to area code. Well, who is up next? 718. You're up next on Fade to Black. Say hi to Richard Dolan.
Hello, Mr. Dolan.
Hi.
Hello?
New York City, I'm guessing. 718?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Right.
Mr. Dolan, did you speak to a gentleman named Mr. Gibson in Nevada by any chance? During a seminar or something like that, he showed you a picture of a UFO or something here in Queens, New York.
Golly, maybe. I don't know. I mean, that would be a hard thing for me to remember, to be perfectly honest with you.
Sure.
I'm not trying to dismiss it. I can't remember that. You have to understand, when I do events, I'm accosted and approached by many people.
With this, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. A close friend of mine had an encounter here in Queens, and this was in her room, and they were the beings were 7 or 8 feet tall. They were extracting something from her stomach. I contacted MUFON about 3 years ago. When I contacted them, I didn't have any encounters or experiences at that time. since then, I've had over 200 encounters myself. Some of these encounters I've documented. They're on my YouTube channel. You could see them for yourself. I have ongoing experiences, and frankly, I'm a little bit, it's been kind of hard on me dealing with it. But here I am trying to let people know the truth.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
thanks for calling.
My
and
YouTube channel.
Is there anything else? I didn't mean to cut you off. Was there something else you wanted to say there?
I'm sorry. Just to see the video, it's on my YouTube channel, Mr. Catfish 2100. No spaces. The videos are there. The title is Triangular UFOs. As a matter of fact, let me just also say I was on Third Phase of the Moon. Their YouTube channel, they study these things as well. This UFO video that you're going to see is actually, this happened on top of a politician's office. His name is Mike Miller. He's with the 38th District Assembly of Queens, New York. And if you see the video, the UFOs are doing like geometric shapes and stuff. They actually come close and they're above his building and they're like in a triangular formation. So I just want to let you know. And thank you for your work. God bless you guys. Continue. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't really know how exactly to respond to everything there. I mean, you've clearly you seem to have had experiences, and I guess the best thing to do to anyone who's had experiences like that, it's hard, right? So the best thing that I think we can do is we do our best to clearly explain what we think has happened, and we do our best in an imperfect world to provide that case before the rest of the world, and it seems like maybe you're trying to do that. So thanks for that.
I wanted to go back to a point that you had made earlier, and I know that you did. I didn't get a chance to see it, Richard, but I know that you did a live stream earlier this week about infiltration into the UFO community, and I'm sure that all of us are used to the concept, right? that this obviously goes on. But I want to give you the opportunity to explain that a little bit further into why would a three-letter agency be interested in the UFO community when they have been dismissing us for so long? What's the advantage of breaking into this community with disinformation? Where do they stand to gain?
Well, we'll go back to the Robertson panel, which would happen during the last weekend of Harry Truman's presidency. Early 1953, you have a CIA-convened scientific panel that really all that they did was a preordained meeting. They knew they were going to debunk all this UFO stuff that had been dominating American news for the previous year. And they came down with a recommendation that they were going to do a debunking campaign in the public, working with corporations, working with major celebrities. All of this was a no-brainer for them, and it was never even a question like, can we do this, by the way? So the ridicule factor was there was a decision that was made that this is what they were going to do. At the same time, they also made the recommendation to infiltrate UFO organizations at that same panel. And in fact, they proceeded to do both of those things in the immediate aftermath. This is one reason I think the contactee case is a strong one, that it was some kind of disinformation, because all of those guys were right after the conclusion of the Robertson panel, 1953, 54, 55, and so on. Secondly, you have infiltration of UFO organizations, starting with the group APRO was infiltrated, as far as the Lorenzens, who ran it, could tell, by the late 1950s at the latest. NICAP infiltrated right from the beginning in 1956, 57. And so the point is, if you have a subject like UFOs that is as important as it is to national security and indeed to world hierarchical stability, the stability of the infrastructure of our world, then you've got to make damn sure that you maintain as much control over this as possible. In particular, if you've acquired UFO tech, if you've acquired non-human bodies. Like, this is the most incredibly revolutionary development one can possibly imagine. Of course, control over that would be non-negotiable. And so when you find these civilian groups that are nosing in on it, yeah, they may not seem like a threat initially, but you've got to, like a good chess player, if you can think 10 moves ahead, you make sure they never get to a point where they become a threat. The problem is that, from their point of view, is that our society has continued to evolve. We've become a bit more capable each generation in investigating this. That's the fact. Like, we're better at this now than we were 20 years ago, and they were better than people were 20 years before that. We are making progress, and so it's becoming more difficult for the other side to continue to contain us. So you got the ridicule and you've got the infiltration. They go hand in glove. And it's not just UFOs, by the way. So the reason that this is such a believable scenario, I mean, aside from the evidence, which is the dominant thing, but also the fact that this fits in with the wider pattern of U.S. intelligence community, COINTELPRO, and Mockingbird type operations, which have been going on throughout since World War II. Like, we know this has happened. This is how the United States national security apparatus operates. It's what they do. They infiltrate, they derail, they ridicule. They keep their opponents, or who they believe are opponents, off their game to the maximum extent possible. And you know what? They're really good at what they do. They're really good at what they do. So that is why, like, if we're going to get into this game and we're going to fight this battle, it is absolutely critical for us to be as clear-headed, as rational and non-emotional, and here I am saying and raising my voice, but non-emotional as we can be, so that we keep our heads, because this is, like, there's a lot going on around us here. And when, again, just to circle back to where we started here, to the claims of people like Corey Goode, the whole trademarking thing to me is almost like a sideshow. It's an embarrassment. It's sordid. And, it's too bad for him and everyone else involved that this comes out, because it doesn't make anyone look good. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. But the real important thing about this is that it's been a distraction. And it's been something that's made this community run around in circles in the most unproductive way. And it has been utterly divisive. It has not been good for unity, if that's what people care about. It's been a distraction. And I don't know that it's an op, but it sure looks like one.
It feels op-ish.
Like op.
Yeah, feels op-ish.
Well, yes, it absolutely does. And not everyone, look, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, I don't know that he knows he's in an op, but people are often useful for the intelligence community without even knowing. Like, there's always someone out there who's going to, like, want to make their name, want to be famous, want to do whatever. And by doing so, they play into the hands of those organizations that are looking to bring disrepute on a particular subject. So, it could be that. I'm not saying that he knowingly does these things. I don't know.
Ego sucks. Ego just sucks.
Well,
we've
all got it. Everyone's got it.
I know. That's what I'm trying to say. That's, at DEF CON, and if you've never been to a DEF CON, Richard, in Las Vegas, the Hackers Conference, you need to go. And and Hackers on Planet Earth, right there in New York, you should go to that one at the Roosevelt. But that being said,
why?
They play a game there at DEF CON called Spot the Fed, right? And they play it, and the feds are all into it. You get a Spot the Fed T-shirt where they'll stop the conference. They'll 1,000 people in the audience. They'll stop and play Spot the Fed. Well, they'll bring up. They'll literally will say, anybody here can point out a Fed. Somebody's going to raise their hand. They stand up. They point over right at that dude's a Fed. They'll make that guy stand up. They'll bring him up onto the stage, and they'll play 5 questions, right? And find out. Now the Feds, they don't mind it. If you get busted and you are a Fed, you get a T-shirt. I was spotted at DEF CON. The Fed
get fun,
right? We should do that. We should play Spot the Fed at Contact in the Desert.
Oh, God.
Right?
Well, I think people do it. People love to do it.
Man, I'm thinking, I hope DEF CON doesn't have it trademarked.
Right? The thing is, like, our field, I know we're running out of time. I know you got to wrap this up.
Yes.
The UFO field has become a kind of a comical egomaniacal, narcissistic, cultish sort of an embarrassment in so many ways. And I'm not going to get into other names. It's like, well, I don't want to have the wars. I'm not into it. But anyone who knows the field knows. Like, they just know. And when you turn yourself into, the next latest, greatest savior, then I think people need to be very, very suspicious of you. No one is the savior. And we are truly in this together. And unfortunately, though, there's this... I think maybe it's part of human nature. People want to find someone who's got all the answers, and
nobody does.
Too bad. That's too bad.
Nobody does, Richard. Nobody knows.
There's always people willing to be that person. There's always people out there willing to be the person who pretends to have all the answers, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, nobody knows. Nobody out of everybody, Richard, in our community. One of the craziest, best quotes I ever got on this show was from Giorgio Tsoukalos. And I quote him all the time. And this is what he said. I think it was last year, maybe it was 2 years ago. But he said on this program, he said, Jimmy, when E.T. lands and we start communicating and we're talking and we are able to get to the answers that we seek, we will find out one thing, that we were all wrong. Right? It's just like, and you need to stop and just think about the significance of that statement, right? And I think he's spot on the money. I think he is spot on. Everybody.
I'm not so
wrong.
Sure. We'll have to revisit that.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
That.
I'm pretty confident in. I think that's a pretty safe bet that we are all wrong.
There's certainly a lot that I don't know that no one knows, and. Yes, I will agree with that. But I do think that we are, in fact, making some strides in our understanding of what is going on, maybe slowly, maybe haltingly. But I do think we have the capability to pierce through this most amazing. It's the most amazing of mysteries, is this UFO phenomenon. And even what we call UFOs, it's more than about unidentified flying objects. That's just like a little placeholder for this amazing thing that we find ourselves exploring. But I believe that we have the ability, if we trust our reason, if we trust our investigative capabilities, to continue to make genuine progress in it and to figure at least a few things out.
Well, what do you I would have thought that we had disclosure in 2018. It didn't happen. We had a pretty good momentum there at the end of 2017, and it seemed like things were about to bust wide open. I still feel pretty confident that we're on the edge of something pretty big here exploding. What do you think? Disclosure in 2019?
I go back and forth on it. I feel like there actually is, I sense, this is only my feeling, that there is a kind of speeding up a little bit. I do think so. I think there's this, it's a greater and greater amount of pressure that is coming from below, from us, that those people who have got this information, who've got the secret, increasingly are bit by bit are maybe grudgingly responding to. But I also think that, there are secret keepers, and I would say they probably have a very good plan to hold on to this secret and control over it for as long as possible. Maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years. Like, as long as they can, they're going to do it, because it's in their interest to drag this out for them as long as possible, because the repercussions of a true disclosure, all right, and not even a complete disclosure, just a true one. Like if the president were to say, yes, there are aliens here, like that, if that were to happen, the repercussions would be profound and many and multifaceted, and would affect every aspect of our society. And so it's too unstable. Those people who are responsible, who think they're responsible, I think they could never give up the secret willingly. This is why I never believed ever that John Podesta or Hillary Clinton were ever going to be disclosure. Like if Hillary had become president, that she would be a disclosure president, as many people had said. I will never believe that. I don't think that was ever legit, because they may be criminals like all the politicians up there are, but they're not dumb. Like, they understand that this is a very, very volatile subject. And I firmly believe all they were doing was just recognizing by 2016 that there was a bit of a UFO vote. They were playing to the crowd.
They were. Definitely.
UFOs had become cool enough that you could talk about it on Jimmy Kimmel. And I think they just recognize that.
You're going to be, let's talk about a few things really quick before we say goodnight. What are you doing this weekend? Are you going to go hang out with some folks?
Tracy's sitting right here, and she runs my schedule. So I think we're going to be here.
Wait! I thought
this is my day every day. We wake up, we go to our website. I have a website, Richard Dolan Members, and I'm just going to say it. It's a great place to go. We work it every single day. It never stops.
I thought Alien Con was this weekend in Baltimore.
Oh, not this weekend. But it is coming up.
Oh, I thought it was this
November
week.
9th, November 9th and 10th.
Oh.
Yeah, this is like my first Alien Con, so this will be fun.
Yeah. Okay, so that's that. And then I thought it was this weekend. It goes to show you what I know. I think
I'm going to do yard work.
You're going to do yard. That's what I did this weekend. And then let's see. What are you doing in 2019? Conscious Life Expo? You coming out for that?
No, I have not been invited for that, and that's fine. I will be doing Contact in the Desert. I've got to finish up my little application for that, but they want me out there for that. And Tracy and I are doing an event in Manchester, UK in July.
Oh man,
that's out there, and I think we're doing a couple of other things. I honestly, here's my thing. Like I'm trying. I want to travel a little less than I have in the past. There's writing, there's work I got to do, and the thing is, like when you travel, I don't know about other people. Like when I travel, I just can't write. I can't get anything done. It's very, very tough, and I learn from the travels. I gain knowledge from other people when I travel. People who attend these conferences, the attendees are the real education, and they always have been for me. So I gain from that, but it's hard for me to get a lot of fresh work done. So I'm trying to hunker down and get some projects done. It's very important for me personally.
Well, thank you so much. And Alien Con is coming up in November, and I was kind of joking about that. But the thing is, Richard, and I totally agree with you. 3 years ago, Rita and I were doing 12, 14 events a year. And it just got to be too much. There was everything else that we wanted to accomplish for an entire year didn't get done. And we had to back up. So you should do the same thing. Just slow it down a little bit, and so you can finish False Flags, and I don't have to bother you about it anymore.
No, it's true. I want that, and I've got other book projects that are calling me. The conferences, they're seductive. The good ones are very, very nice to go to. They're fun, and I'm not going to deny it.
No doubt.
And there's folks out there who really like to bitch about the conferences, and but the fact is, like, they would want to go because they're enjoyable. You get to meet a lot of really great people, and it's definitely fun. But the thing is, and they're also good in that they force me to develop fresh ideas. Like if I'm asked to give a presentation, like I've got to really think things through, and I don't like giving the same presentations. So it forces me into fresh thinking, which is good for me. So it's not like nothing gets done. A lot gets done, but writing on projects that I've been working on, like a conference will take a good week out of my life, like, the prep for it, getting things ready for that, coming back, jet lag, whatever. So it takes a little bit out, and I'm not trying to get sympathy, but it's just one of those things, and it's just part of the game. But I'm trying to step back just a little bit to get a little bit more work done.
Thank you so much, Richard, and give my best to Tracy. Be safe and be well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Richard Bleepin Dolan. Go trademark it. I'll talk to you, Richard. Have a great night. It's Fade to Black. I'm Heroes Jimmy Church. I'll be right back after this short break. I'll open up the phone lines just because. I'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRAradio.com.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out. That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-717-WAVE, 888-717-WAVE, or visit dryhealthyhome.com. dryhealthyhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I want to thank Richard Dolan, Richard Bleepin Dolan. That was a great conversation. All of it. And I've opened up the phone lines, 323-825-5045 or 323-275-9695, or 818-921-6929. So I've got enough time for a couple of phone calls here before we got to say goodnight. Tomorrow night, Laura Eisenhower is going to be here. Get ready for that, too, as well. And with that, let's go to area code 702. You're up next on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, Richard. This is Mike.
All right, this is Jimmy. Richard's not here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Jimmy, first thing, I just want to give you like crazy props on the way you do interviews, because you always bring your knowledge, but you never really bring your ego. You're like, you have this like curiosity, and I love to hear you treat your guests that way. It's amazing. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening to you.
Okay. Sorry. So I was listening to Richard, and there's something that I've been trying to articulate in my brain for a long time, and it really kind of came to me. When people approach these kind of subjects, it's almost a totally binary argument. Like, if you are willing to believe that there is something going on, then you're willing to believe that there is a lot of really crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to believe that there's something going on, then you almost dismiss everything out of hand. And so once you start going down the rabbit hole, then you can really go a long way down the rabbit hole. But it's like you have to take that first step down the rabbit hole. And that's all. As I was listening to Richard, it really occurred to me, because I have a lot of friends that think I'm sort of crazy. But it really is like the first step is the one step that matters the most. And after that, you can really take a whole bunch of steps after that. And that's really, I just wanted to share that insight. Richard, there's something that he said, and I can't even remember what it was, but there's something he said that sort of made me realize that's really what it is. You just have to be willing to take that first step.
Yeah, you have to.
Anyway.
You have to. And thank you for the phone call. I really appreciate it. One of the aspects to all of this is that when you witness something, and it doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter. It could be something in the sky. It could be something in your room. It could be an orb. Whatever it is, it's just a. But once you see something that you can't explain, and you take things to another level. It is, you understand at that point that things could be very, very crazy. Now, look, I've seen stuff in the skies. I've seen this, but that orb that I saw up at East City, that flat orb that came out from behind the trees and was out against the field out there in the distance. Look, that is one of the craziest things that I've ever had come out of my mouth. And I'm trying to tell people what I witnessed. Everybody else did too. I wasn't the only one that saw this. But wait a minute here. That's not supposed to be happening in real life, is it? A big flat 50-foot flat, not even a sphere, a flat orb sitting out of the edge of the field and just appeared and then went away. Now, look. I can't explain that. But if that is real, then what else out there that is not supposed to be happening actually happening? And that's where you just it's not a leap of faith. It's not about faith. That is something that is actually existing out in front of me. So I don't know. I don't know. That's why I listen to everybody. I can't really say what is real and what is not anymore. Let's go back to the phones. Area code 720. You're up next on Fade to Black.
Hey, what's up, Jimmy?
Who's this?
My name is Mark. I'm from Colorado. First time caller, man.
Hey, Mark. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to, in spirit of taking that first step, I wanted to share my story with you real quick, if I could.
Yeah, we got a couple of minutes here before the top of the hour. Go ahead, Mark.
Real quick, yeah. About 4 years ago, I was driving down the road, and I saw what looked like a helicopter, except for I didn't hear anything. So I was sitting at a stoplight, looking at it, like, what the hell? Like, it's not doing anything. So I pulled over, and I was just watching this thing. And it seemed to, like, know that I was watching it. It turned into a star, it looked like. Like, it kind of faded and turned into a star. In effect, that's what it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at it like, nah, man, you're not a star. I saw you moving. And about a minute later, it like shot across the sky like the Starship Enterprise and disappeared. I don't know if it was like some secret program or what it was, but definitely something.
See, and that's all it takes. You know, it's something like that where you go, okay, well, things are not what they seem to be. You know, and that's all it takes. And then you just go and question everything and start to research. But I'm totally with you. That must have been a pretty fun thing to go through. Because
man, it was warp 9.5, I'm telling you. Like, that thing disappeared.
And Mark, that's an epiphany. That's a life-changing thing. And thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, you got it, man. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. That's a great phone call right there. Let's, okay, you know what? I'm just going to do this just because. Hey, Eric, how are you?
Good. This is Eric.
Yes, I know. How are you?
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live right now. I brought you straight in.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm just kicking back watching the Lakers. It's like 2 minutes to go in the game and it's tied.
It could. Maybe they'll win their first game. Any fights?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, good. So
if
it's all
they
done.
lose, there'll probably be a fight. I think Flea's going to come out of the crowd and just start taking his guitar and whacking people with it.
Yeah, right on. So, what do you think about the conversation tonight with Mr. Richard Dolan?
I thought it was great, but okay. So I'm just going to ask the question that I bet probably more than half your listeners want asked. And this is no knock. I'm not trying to knock or put anybody on the spot here, but you know David Wilcock. I know you. I'm imagining you guys have private conversations. Can you share anything? I mean, what's his take on this? Is he going to come out and make a statement? Because I really think he could probably clear up some of this stuff, but maybe he just lays low. I mean, what's going on with David? Are we going to have him on the show soon?
Yeah, we could have him on the show soon. But what question do you want answered from David? Eric, you said there's an obvious question that everybody has. So what's the obvious question?
I think the question is what's his opinion? I'd really like to know his opinion on what's going on with Corey and his position with his, with what his stance was. And then of course you've got Mr. Rice on the other side. But I mean, I'm going to have to think, I'm just speculating, but I would think that Corey and David would have had a conversation. I just don't imagine that Corey would just come out without consulting with some people first. I could be totally wrong, but wouldn't that make sense to you that he would at least consult with David, who brought him forward to begin with?
Okay, Eric, what are you talking about? Just clarify. Talk to me like I'm 4 years old. What is it that you are saying?
I'm just wondering. Okay, I just don't know that he got real good advice. I'm just trying to figure out who gave
real good advice on what? On Jason Rice?
No, on coming out with this labeling thing or this trademark thing and taking a stand against Mr. Rice and just basically trying to kind of draw the line in the sand a little bit.
But what does David have to do with the trademark?
No, he doesn't have anything to do with it, I would assume, but
okay.
I would just think that Corey would talk to David, and I would think that David would say, that's a good idea, or that's not a good idea, or do what you want. I'm just trying to get into the head of what's really going on.
Okay, I hear you there. I'm not sure. Okay, look, what does everything that you just said, Eric, and no disrespect, what does that have to do with anything? Okay, my concern with the trademarks, this is my concern, is that trademarking your own intellectual property, fine, go and have at it. I don't, whatever. My concern with Corey, and again, I have no dogs in this fight, except when Corey, his attorney, sent Jason Rice a cease and desist a couple of hours before Fade to Black. That I have an issue with, and trying to apparently censor or silence or scare somebody from appearing on a show like this. That doesn't make sense to me. So for me, that throws the concern about trademark and freedom of speech and this community could speak about whatever they want kind of goes out the window if you're going to send somebody a cease and desist letter, unless I completely misunderstood what that cease and desist letter was intending to do. If Jason Rice is going to sell 20 and back T-shirts, then there's an issue there for Corey. But talking about 20 and back on this program, that has nothing to do with Corey. That is Jason's conversation. So you can't have it both ways. So that's my concern. So I don't know what the intention of sending that letter was, if it was different than the way it reads, right? The way it reads says you can't go on Fade to Black and talk about these things. Well, that has nothing to do with Corey or anybody else, and I want to be very clear about that. Anybody can come on the show and talk about what they want. Nobody's going to tell me what to say or what a guest on this show can speak about. You can't do that. That is censorship, and there's nothing to prevent anybody from coming on the show and speaking. So there you go. That's my answer to that.
Okay. Well, I realize that you're privy to conversations and I also understand, out of respect for someone who might come to you and say, look, I want to share this with you, but this is private, then you, as a professional, you need to maintain that privacy. But what kind of bothers me as a kind of a fan or somebody on the outside is that, I see certain people out there, which these are the same people that you don't pay attention to what they say, which is fine.
Right.
But they assume that because you don't disclose information that you've given your honor that you would keep private, that means that you're taking a side or you have an opinion that's different than what you present on the radio. And I guess that just kind of bugs me.
Right.
I'm just kind of hoping.
Yeah. And Eric, you're so right with that, and I appreciate that. But to try to answer all of that, first off, I don't listen to or watch or pay attention to what others say. I just don't do that. I will say this in a very clear and direct way. I don't have any inside information. And I have tried to get that information. Okay. Not even if for myself, not to share on this show, but certainly to get clarification about what is going on out there. I do know that there are some concerns that is flying around inside of this circle where they are trying to seek the same answers that all of us are. So that says to me that nobody really knows. And I find that very compelling. So that's why I said here, in a very clear way, when the smoke clears and there is a guilty party, somebody is going to be horribly embarrassed, and a career and a reputation is going to be so tarnished that it's going to be it's painful to see somebody get exiled. But I think that is going to be ultimately the end result here. I just don't know, and that's it. I'm not withholding anything, but even if I did know something, would I breach it? No, there's too much legal maneuvering that is going on right now that I'm going to let everybody play it out. It's got to get played out, and then we'll have something to talk about and to report on. But until then, do I know something? Oh, man, not really. I know that's a kind of a bummer for everybody. Have I told you anything private? No. Right?
No, you haven't.
I
will admit.
And
but I know better than to try. I mean, I've tried to sneak in a few questions privately, and you just kind of give me that look, and I know, okay, I can't go there.
Well,
but it's fun to try. Right?
And it is, and I appreciate your friendship. I know that you have been out there on the road. You've made a lot of contacts out there, and you're out there trying to struggle with these questions and answers just like everybody else. I'm talking about the UFO question, and this is what you do, and I appreciate that, Eric. So Don't ever change, my friend. Don't ever change.
I won't. Another great show. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. I'll let you wrap it up here.
I got to go. I'm exactly 1 minute late. Thank you so much, Eric.
Okay, I'm at her. All right, good night.
And that wraps another episode of Fade to Black. I know I'm running late. I've got to get this in, and let's do this right now. I'm running a couple of minutes over, but that's the way it goes. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Show is produced by Hill J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJ Sierra for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet. Thank you to Richard Bleepin Dolan, everybody that called in and tweeted tonight. This is broadcast owned and copyrighted 2018 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I'll see everybody tomorrow night. Laura Eisenhower right here on Fade to Black. Until then, everybody be safe. Go back, Lee Tappy.